Today on the Skid Factory, it's big block time. Welcome back to the Big Block Factory. Well, actually, it's John's shed, not the Big Block Factory, but for today it can be. This is my Big Block Chev. It is a 1978 model high performance passenger block. It's got 4-bolt mains, and that's about it, all it's got at the moment. It's soon to have a new camshaft, which John's eagerly awaiting inserting into the block before we put the crankshaft in. How you going, John?
I'm going all right.
Thanks for having us once again. So I got this engine out of another car. It had been sitting in that car for I don't know how many years, but a long time. Like, I took it out and replaced it with a newer engine because it was basically, it wasn't fit for purpose for what that car was going to be used for, and sort of kept the engine in payment for doing a big job on this car. So we had it running just before we pulled it out, and it did run, so that was good enough for us. So I pulled it out. It's been sitting in my shed for a few years now already. So once we've decided that we're going to fit it to the crown, obviously we have to pull it down and have a look inside. I didn't really know what was in it. I pulled the sump off and the valve covers off and just had a quick look and could see that it had this Lanati crankshaft, so an aftermarket crankshaft. I read the numbers off it and it came up on Google as a 496 crank, so I don't know what the stroke is of it. But
4-inch.
It turns out it wasn't. It's just they must use the same casting number for both. So it's actually just a 454. So it's a 4-inch stroke. So it isn't a 496. It is still a 454 with an overbore. So about 460 cube, I think John worked out.
Something like that, yep.
It's still got a lot of good gear in it, and it's still going to do the job for us. Our primary thing now is to get it back together because we need to send it back down to Melbourne. It's already been down to Melbourne for a while, sitting at Harrop, and the juicy part is that Harrop have used this engine to develop a modern supercharger kit. So similar to the Iron Lines setup, it's going to have a Eaton TVS2650 charger with an intercooler underneath it, FDFI, so front drive, front intake with a e-throttle, fuel injection, the whole works. So nothing like your old chrome blower, which if you've watched this show, you'll know I don't like them, and I don't think they work very well. And it was never gonna have one of those. So that's why we're doing this right now, because we need to get it back down to Melbourne in rebuilt form. So now we know what's in it, and we know that it's all good to go, and they're gonna fit up their sort of prototype supercharger kit. And it's going to be run on an engine dyno. I think Dandy Engines are going to do it. So they're going to test the supercharger setup and make sure that the system works properly. So we're part of the development. So first up, the first thing we're changing is putting a different camshaft in it. And I consulted with Robbie Abbott, who has helped us with a couple of engines before. He's a bit of a big block guru, loves the things. Once John pulled the engine down and we found out what was inside it, and he'd measured everything and checked compression ratios and all that sort of stuff, got the cam sizes and everything and type, I then relayed that to Robbie, and he basically said, you're not going to have a fun time with this solid roller cam because it does need a lot of service. It's noisy, it wears everything out, the valve springs are super heavy to go with it, and because you're supercharging it, it doesn't really need that sort of cam in it, because in his words, let the supercharger do the work. That's what it's on there for. You can pump air in rather than having to rev the engine to get efficiency. So we've changed it from that solid roller to a hydraulic flat tappet cam on his advice, and we've also reduced the overall, like the size of it, the specs of it, I suppose. So it's not even a very wild setup anymore. So it's a 232, 237 at 50 for the cam nerds. 114 lobe separation. That was one of the things we had to change. It had a 110 lobe separation on the other cam, which is sort of right at the end of where you'd want it for a boosted application. So it's actually pretty mild now. Valve lift. in my glasses.
500 and something.
547 valve lift, so a bit over half an inch. So it's pretty mild. You know, it's not the kind of thing you'd put in your LS to go to power cruise and hit limiter. It's too small for that, but should still make some good power. You want to insert that in there, John?
Good to go.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to work out where the oil goes. We'll get to that. We've talked about 4-bolt mains and what they're for. What do you remember?
I think we have in the past. Do you want to talk about it again?
Oh, you know, like why does this have 4-bolt mains and an LS has 6-bolt and all that sort of stuff, but a 2JZ has 2?
Let's go over it.
Yeah, it's working. If you're wondering why an engine like this in high performance guys has 4-bolt mains, or sometimes 6-bolt in later model stuff where they cross-bolt them through the sump, whereas a Barra or a JZ or RB inline engine doesn't, the reason for that is because the force of the power pulse on an engine that's V-shape is going sideways instead of straight up and down. So that creates side loading on the main bearings rather than just downwards loading. So it's also the reason like why most heavy truck stuff is an inline engine, because they obviously have massive loadings on the bearings and that sort of thing. So they just keep the engine in line so that the loading's only going one direction. There's not many engines. I think Scania maybe still runs V8s, but most of the stuff is inline 6, and that's the reason for that. 4-bolt is taking most of the load. It's also a wider cap. The 6 bolts, the side ones, it's just making it into a structural member with the sump. It's not really 6 bolts in this sort of way of describing it. Like there's not another set of studs here or anything. It's just a side loading. It's just tying it into the structure of a cast sump, much the same way as a Barra does. But you don't refer to them as 4-bolt mains. So that's why. Now you know. Or you can argue about it if you want. Do you agree, John?
Me? Couldn't agree more.
Someone's going to comment and you're wrong, Alan.
Yeah.
Someone is. It's usually alloy blocks that do the 6-bolt stuff on, because they tie the caps into the pan rails.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty impressive that an engine from the 70s combined with some aftermarket rods and pistons can produce such a reliable and powerful combination. The pistons being used are a forged SRP item which will bring the compression ratio to around 9.8 to 1. The rods are SCAT I-beams and the complete rotating assembly has been previously balanced. Once the bottom end has been assembled, John proceeds to find true top dead centre using a dial gauge. Using the dial gauge on cylinder number 1's intake lifter, the camshaft timing is checked. The cam gear being used can adjust the cam timing by 2-degree increments, but no adjustment was needed as it's found to be spot on out of the box. Thread sealant is used on the head studs as they are an open hole and can cause water leaks if they aren't sealed.
Bottom ends all together. We got the head studs in there and some MLS head gaskets on, so we're just about ready to put the cylinder heads on. We've just had these recode. They're Pro Top Line heads from New Zealand, which is no longer made as far as I'm aware. 320cc chamber volume if you're a nerd and know about big block stuff. They'll do the job. We've got double valve springs, but we only got a single spring in at the moment because we need to run the camshaft in and then put the second spring in. Just takes the load off the cam while you're running it in when the damage is most likely to occur. So let's bolt them on, make it look like more of an engine. Bonus mid-video merch break. We've got these new Huckscar shirts in the store. VK56.
Is that a moist sump?
Dorts, moist sumps, all the good stuff. So if you're a Nissan fan or a V8 fan or a Dort fan,
Or a SKID Factory fan?
or just a SKID Factory fan, get onto it. If you had typed moistsump.com into your browser, you would have been taken directly there, but no one got it. We successfully unrickrolled ourselves.
I think we rickrolled ourselves, that's it.
We snatched defeat from the hands of victory. We've also got a winner for guessing the weight of the Shafarov Big Dog engine. It was Thomas Thor. He was the first and one of only 2 people that got it exactly right at 256 kilograms. So contact us, info at the SKID Factory, Thomas, and we'll send you out a sticker or something meaningless.
Send us...
But cool.
That's not meaningless. Send us an email and we'll send you out some merch.
All right.
Sweet.
What else we got to do?
Back to...
Let's go back to something.
Back to the engine build.
Oh yeah, engine building. we just bolted all the rocker gear on. It's got crane roller rockers, guide plates, 7/16" studs, usual sort of stuff for this sort of engine. The only difference is we've changed it from a solid roller cam to a hydraulic flat tappet. So when we're doing the lash adjustment, there's not really any lash adjustment because it's got hydraulic lifters which like hydraulically set the lash. But we do have to set a small amount of preload on the lifter with the push rod. So John's just winding it around through the firing order and setting, just basically you just take out the slack and then give it like a one flat in this case. These are anti-pump up lifters, so that's the instructions on from the manufacturer. So once we've done this, we shouldn't have to do it again. It should just work just like any other hydraulic camshaft. But
You will have to do it again.
when
Put the springs on.
when the springs come out, we will. Yeah. Crown's Big Block is all back together and pretty much ready to slot back in its crate and send it back down to Melbourne, to Harrop. We will be following closely behind it and doing some filming down there when it gets engine dyno tuned. So we've got a few little bits and pieces to bolt back on. I'll have to consult with the guys down there to see what they actually need. But yeah, it'll probably be our first experience with an engine dyno, so I'm kind of keen to have a look. And I believe that we're going to get a bit of a look through Harrop's factory as well, which is going to be pretty cool. Pretty good facility. So that'll be awesome. Big thanks to John for pretty much just doing all the hard work as usual. Had a few little hiccups here and there, but it went together eventually. So that's probably pretty much due to John's preparation work as usual. Also thanks to Mandy for making us some American hot dogs. They were mint.
Hot dog.
They're always good when you can buy them in bulk.
Bulk hot dogs. Righto, so that's all we got time for. We'll again, we don't know what the timeline's going to be, so we'll come back to the engine when it's down in Melbourne, getting the big dog put on the top. Supercharger kit. I'm pretty keen, and you probably are as well, because this is going to be a new thing, all modern stuff, and it's going to fit under the bonnet.
No, it's not.
No, that was a lie.
It'll fit under the
It'll
bonnet.
be about
just be
here.
augmented.
It'll be fine.
So it's this big, not chrome thing hanging out the bottom.
It's not chrome, but it's big, but it's also not a heat pump. So, you know.
Well, it is, but it works.
A little bit from here, a little bit from there. Some injectors. Be sweet. That's all we got. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Someone's a truck engineer, and they're going to tell you what V8's still made.
Those Scania V8 trucks sound so good, though. Google it.
Caterpillar doing the big stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the big industrial stuff is still like V8, 16, like huge things.
Generators and pumps.
But prime mover engines are normally inline sixes, except for Scania. Oh yeah, just put Waz's rocker covers on it.
You don't even notice.
You could, Alan. Put Waz's rocker covers on, and then it becomes a 598 straight away.
Will it be a big dog?
Then it will be big dog.
A real beard.
John, can you make us some covers that say small dog skid factory or
I
something?
don't know how neat do you
What
want
about medium dog?
Medium dog? You can. Have you gone bigger cubes, Alan?
Josh,
502, 598, big dog. Oh, good.
598. You reckon that's enough?
They could have stretched it a bit to 600. couldn't
Yeah.
they?
Even the Hoff told me that he wanted to own a big block with a blower one day.
Yeah?
Yeah, that surprised me.
This week on No Garage, he'll probably go buy another Corolla and do that.
He's probably already built it. Just
I like how it's only 2/3 the size of that VH41.
yeah, that's right. We should put it side by side.
Probably twice the cubes.
The VH41 would be wider, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Way wider.
Come pick that up, Ethel.
Christopher.
Before we leave today, don't forget about Rocky Nuts, April 15th to the 17th, so that's Easter long weekend in Rockhampton. Come and say hi, bring your car up, do a skid, drink some lemon squash in the correct places, obviously, not both at the same time. Come and say hi to us. We're going to be there with the Iron Lion cruising around in the Kingswood wagon. Our mate Mark is going to be there with the ZC Fairlane. We're in for an awesome weekend, so come and say hi, and that's really about it. Check the links in the corners. We've got Rocky Nuts, other videos, merchandise. Am I even in the centre of the screen here, Alan? I didn't even know.
Yeah, close enough.
And then maybe subscribe down here. Maybe another Rocky Nuts video. Check it out. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Cheers. See you at Rocky Nuts.